Jesus calls all his followers to be missionary disciples in our homes, in our work, in our communities, to live out the good news of Jesus. Every calling that we have is special, but some are called to be Baptist ministers. One of the curious things about our Baptist ministry is that only 10% of our ministers are women. For nearly a century, we've welcomed women into our ministry, but they still are only a small proportion of the whole. However, there's some good news around, because if you went to our colleges, you'd find that 25% of our ministerial students are women. We've got a long way to go, but we're making progress. I'd love you to come with me to our college in Bristol and to meet one of those women students.
Hi, I'm Ali Bolton. When I was 17, I felt the calling. I wanted to be a minister. I couldn't wait to talk about it with a guest speaker at the Christian Youth Weekend I was on. And I did. And his attitude was, but you're a woman. And I thought, I see. And he said, look, what about becoming a missionary or a secretary or marrying a minister? So I decided to serve God by becoming a drama teacher instead. Yeah, I loved drama teaching, and that does make a real difference to people's lives when you teach, but somehow I felt there was something more fundamental that I wanted to offer people. I became more involved in the church. I got involved in working with the young people at church and in the worship group and the toddler group, and as time went on I began to preach and became an elder. I couldn't quite settle in myself that was the extent of what God was calling me to, really, I think. I kept feeling there's something else, there's something more. And so I waited for God to give me a sign. And I waited, and waited, and waited for 24 years. So as I was waiting and wondering and searching, the minister of the church that I was going to said, well, have you actually thought about going into Baptist ministry and becoming a minister? And I thought, well, it's quite a long time since I'd really considered that, so I had to revisit again the whole idea of, is this okay for a woman to do this? And as I sort of wondered and thought about it, I felt that God was saying, yeah, that is okay, it is all right. And so eventually, at the age of 41 in 2005, I enrolled at Bristol Baptist College.
My name's Stephen Finnemore, and I'm the principal here at the Bristol Baptist College, and our college is one of the 5 colleges which serve the Baptist Union of Great Britain. There are an astonishing range of people that come to college to enter into training as Baptist ministers. It astounds me the different backgrounds and the different types of people whom God is calling to do that. So we have people in their very early 20s who decide that God's calling them to be ministers and come into college very young with a lifetime of ministry ahead of them. Whereas there are others who've already had a career, like Ali, who was a drama teacher.
College is definitely about more than the theoretical learning, although that's important, but we do a lot of practical things. So for instance, I'm training as a congregation-based student, so I spend half of my time actually in church as an associate minister. A lot of the courses are planned to include visits to engage with different areas of ministry. So for instance, there's an integral mission course where people go to prisons and go out and look at various different areas of the city and how people are engaging in mission and ministry in those areas. And then there's the pastoral side where we visited places like health centres and crematoriums and undertakers, so that we can actually kind of see how hands-on, as ministers, we would be engaging in those real-life situations.
We have absolutely no intention of putting them in an ivory tower to study theology like a disconnected discipline that isn't connected with the real world. We want pastor theologians who've got their feet firmly on the ground and whose thinking about God is related to their thinking about the world and the issues that we're confronted with.
On the 17th of January 2008, I saw a blinding light, an overwhelming feeling, a vision, a sign that God wanted me to be in Swindon. And so I was in this Baptist ministers' meeting in Swindon when we were asked to pray about establishing a Christian presence in a new housing development. And it was one of those moments. I mean, I guess church planting had been at the back of my mind for a while, but then it was one of those feelings that you can't really explain or put your finger on. I'd been given a sign, yet I still felt some doubt about my ability to serve God.
Well, one of the things that we encourage with all our students is to be reflective about themselves, not to presume that they're God's gift to every set of circumstances, and to ask themselves hard questions about their calling. So it's not surprising in those circumstances that Ali had some doubts about whether a challenging calling like this was for her. So when she came and talked to us about this, we wanted to reassure her that she has all those characteristics and skills and gifts that she needs for this kind of calling.
So as you can see, this is the brand new housing area that we're going to be moving into, and there's our house, and as you can see it's all still being built. Since the very beginning we've been in partnership with and supported by WEBA, which is the West of England Baptist Association, and their support has enabled us to buy a house big enough to be able to invite guests in and entertain, to get to know our neighbours and to have meetings if that's appropriate. And in fact, we're calling our house the Stow, which means the meeting place, because we want to be a home where people feel welcome and want to come in and get to know us. And we're also in relationship with a wider ecumenical group that involves some of our Baptist friends and people from other denominations, and we've been praying for the new community and working together at how we can build a sense of a Christian presence in the area. And through that, I pray that they don't just see me in that place, but they see something of who God is and what God intends for us, both as communities and as individuals. That's what excites me. It's taken 24 years, but now I know what God's big plan is for me. And do you know what? It's brilliant.
More and more women are feeling God's call to ministry, and the Spirit is moving in our churches to encourage them to be more accepting and responsive to the ministry of women. We're hoping and praying for the day when at least half of the people coming into college to be trained for Baptist ministry, for the life and the mission of our churches, will be women.
I would really like to encourage people, women and men, who think that they have a calling to ministry to continue to explore it, to not write it off, to wonder and wait, because I think God is faithful, and that if you are being called to that, He will make it clear to you. Although it's taken a long time, and I don't recommend that everyone waits 24 years, I feel really excited that I've got to this point. I think my life experiences up to now are important too. I now feel really excited to be on the brink of leaving college, of starting this new adventure. The challenge ahead of me is massive, but it's amazing to know that the local association and others in the wider Baptist family will be there with me in Swindon, supporting me with their prayers and a grant from Home Mission. And of course, God will be there with me too, encouraging me to be a missionary disciple.